Coming at you from the ATL, from inside the paint and beyond the arc. This is Nothin But Nest, your Atlanta Hawks podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Deshaun Tate and Caleb Johnson.
Welcome into Nothin But Nest, a play-in tournament edition of the show. I'm Caleb Johnson here with you. Going to give you just a kind of a brief rundown of what's about to happen over the course of the next few days, specifically on Tuesday, as the Atlanta Hawks get ready to play the Miami Heat in Miami, a place that the Hawks have not won since March 2nd, 2021. It's been a really difficult stretch for the Hawks in Miami, as obviously a lot of us remember that playoff series a year ago where the Hawks won just 1 out of 5 games against Miami, as Miami just, kind of made quick work of the Atlanta Hawks and moved on. It feels like that specific series set in motion a set of chain reactions for the Atlanta Hawks, where so much of the conversation shifted about Trae Young and about, he needs to play off the ball more and they need to get him a better running mate and all of these different things that happened because of that Miami Heat series last year. And yet here we are a year later where the front office did make some changes. They did go and get DeJounte Murray in the offseason. They did midseason fire their head coach, Nate McMillan, bring in Quinn Snyder, try to implement his new system and how he wants to run this team. And it ends up back where they get to face the Miami Heat all over again and see a year from now is the changes that the Miami Heat have made, are those really making that big of an impact? Or can the Hawks get over the hump of what's just been a difficult thing for them to pull off? It feels like Miami and what they've set up with obviously Jimmy Butler as the head of that snake has just been really problematic for the Atlanta Hawks this year. You can go even to the series this season where the Hawks won just a single game out of 4 matchups. It's why the Atlanta Hawks are going to end up, are not going to end up. They did end up second in the Southeast Division. This is going to be a true test for the Atlanta Hawks to kind of figure out, how quickly what Quinn Snyder has implemented, whether it's going to work or not. And then a test of do the Atlanta Hawks truly want to be in the postseason, or are they really just kind of done? Of course, to get to this point, the Atlanta Hawks did lose on Sunday to the Boston Celtics, wrapping up the regular season. But that was one where obviously the game didn't matter, and they were just trying to finish up the season, see what they could get from guys. It was really interesting, though, because guys that don't play a lot of minutes got to see some time. It was also a really good opportunity for DeAndre Hunter, because that'll be something to keep an eye out for come Tuesday is, what level of health that DeAndre Hunter is. This will be his 3rd game that he's played since being out with that knee injury. It was a bone bruise situation for DeAndre Hunter. And then he came back. He played the Philly game where the Hawks lost to the Philadelphia 76ers when the Sixers didn't have any of their starters. And then DeAndre Hunter also, I think, put in about 15, 17 minutes or so on Sunday against the Celtics, really just kind of trying to ramp up, get that fitness ready, because there's nothing quite like game speed to get a guy ready. And the Hawks are really going to need the defensive presence of DeAndre Hunter. They will also, want to rely on his offense as well, of course. But it just really feels like in a series where you're you need someone to be a main defender for Jimmy Butler. You're going to have that big guy in the paint, that presence from Bam Adebayo. And you've got your bigs that can handle that situation. But DeAndre Hunter has done such a good job this season of taking the opposing team's main defender, and trying to shut him down, trying to turn him into a problem. I know when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks, of course, I listed kind of the injury situations that they had going on. Coming into Tuesday night, there are no injuries for the Hawks. However, on the flip side of this, Kyle Lowry is questionable to play for the Miami Heat, and Max Strus is probable to play for the Miami Heat. So I think that plays a factor, at least for them, that if they don't have their main guys, it should also. I think it is important to point out that yes, this Atlanta Hawks team has had an issue playing the Miami Heat this season. They've given them fits, but it's all about timing of when these two teams have actually seen each other. I believe the first matchup was back in November, when when the Heat won by about 8 points. The main thing though is this team these two teams saw each other about a month ago, and that one of those back-to-back series. There's not really a back-to-back, but they stay in the same city. The Hawks went to Miami for both of those games, and they lost both of them. However, that was within the first week of Quinn Snyder's tenure with the Atlanta Hawks. So it's not like he had a lot of opportunity to really kind of get this thing going for them. They've had that time now. They've had those opportunities to build what's a much more fluid offense. It's not the same level of just pound the ball on the floor, dribble this thing out. There's a lot of actions, a lot of movement going on with the Atlanta Hawks offense. And then, of course, a big thing for Quinn Snyder that he's wanted to focus on is offensive rebounding. He wants offensive rebounding to be a focal point for this Hawks team, because that impacts their defense. Because if they're back on their heels in transition, it leads to easier baskets for the opposing team. For this time, it'll be the Miami Heat. And so that's something that we'll be looking for from Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu. When it comes to all of this play-in stuff, though, it is important to point out that the Atlanta Hawks play the Miami Heat on Tuesday. The game is at 7 o'clock. I believe it's on TNT. But the radio broadcast, of course, will always be there available to you on 92.9 The Game. If the Atlanta Hawks win Tuesday's game, they beat the Miami Heat, the Hawks will then become the 7th seed, and they will travel to Boston. Yeah, the city they were just in on Sunday. They'll go back to Boston on Saturday for game 1 of the first round of the playoffs to play the 2 seed Boston Celtics. If the Atlanta Hawks do lose, however, they will come back home. They'll have a home game on Friday and play the winner of Wednesday night's Toronto Raptors game versus Chicago Bulls. That is in Toronto. Really kind of feels like, with the direction of those two franchises right now, Toronto is the higher seed, so they are going to get the better odds, but it just kind of feels like, with the way those two franchises are going right now, that it'll be pretty likely that you end up getting the Raptors, which could play to the benefit of the Hawks. They have had a bit of luck against the Raptors, a team that's obviously got big size, and you have to deal with those issues. But you've got an AJ Griffin buzzer beater against the Raptors, and so there's just some positive things. It's at least not quite as doom and gloom as it has been against the Miami Heat, where you've won just the one game. The other part of this is, like I said, if the Hawks lose to the Miami Heat on Tuesday, have to play that play-in round game, that second play-in round game on Friday against the winner of the Raptors or Bulls game. If they win that game, they would then go on to Sunday, where they would go to Milwaukee and begin the first round of the playoffs against the Milwaukee Bucks as the 8th seed. So a lot of movement happening right now for the Atlanta Hawks. A lot of things up in the air for them. It really, once again, it feels like so much of this is going to be predicated on, do the Hawks really want to be a part of this postseason? Do they kind of want to prove people wrong, that even though they have not had the season that they intended to, that they can at least finish out strong with some optimism going into next season, because we know there's going to be a lot of questions to be answered about the direction of this franchise. There's been even national people wanting to bring up some pretty tired narratives, even as of late. As I know, I saw an article in the Ringer that was pointing out some pretty inaccurate things about Trae Young to this point. Some stuff that is stuck with Trae in the past of Trae being a defender who just stands in the corner and isn't really involved. That's not been the Trae Young under Quinn Snyder. Trae's been involved. He's getting steals. He's being active. He's at least getting in the way. We know his size difference is obviously an issue, and that leads to mismatches and things like that. But Trae has been very active defensively as of late, and I feel like he deserves to get that credit. He also finishes the year as I believe it's the season total leader in assists. He's had a career assists night as of late. That came as recent as Friday night when he did it against the Sixers. Yes, it wasn't a loss, but Trae's going to be able to get his teammates involved, and I think that'll play a key part in the Miami series. It will give them an opportunity to have a fighting chance. And I don't. There's some small piece in the back of my mind that goes, it just feels like Miami's due, right? You win so many consecutive games. I said it earlier. You can go all the way back to March 2nd, 2021. That was the last time that the Atlanta Hawks beat the Miami Heat in Miami. So it feels like it's that time. It feels like they're due. That things are moving in more of a positive way, even though you finished off the season with 2 losses that were not great. The Sixers one obviously being a big head scratcher, and then the Celtics one was just one of your backups versus their backups, and you didn't pull that one out. However, this is the big moment. This is these playoff moments is when we've seen Trae Young step up and be a really big part of the Atlanta Hawks' success. It felt like last season when the Hawks got to face Miami that they frustrated Trae to begin with, and then he was just not the same. He was just kind of checked out. As there was even that report earlier this year after Game 2 against the Miami Heat last season that Trae Young took his own plane. He went on his own charter jet and went home, and the team fined him later because they want him being with the team. They didn't want him going off and doing his own thing. So it feels like, based on all of these learning experiences, combined with just a sense of let's finish this thing out strong, that I feel good about the Atlanta Hawks' chance against the Miami Heat. We'll have an episode breaking it down following right after the game, so we'll try to get that up to you guys on Wednesday as soon as possible. Give me and Deshaun, we'll try to give you our thoughts, and break it all down, and hopefully we get to talk about a win. But we're going to keep this one short and let you go, and we'll talk again pretty soon. Thanks for watching and listening to this episode of Nothing But Nest.